So what's better for Google Ads for junk removal? I see this question very often in a lot of the groups when people are discussing both Google AdWords and Google local service ads. And there's no real true short answer to this. So instead I figured I'd put together a video to give you an idea of the differences between the two so that you can factor in the strengths and weaknesses between the two platforms to figure out which one is right for you. So if you're in the junk removal industry and you're running Google Ads, odds are you've either ran both of these or at least one of these in the past, either Google AdWords or you have ran Google local service ads. They're both different forms of advertising on the same platform. And I really wanted to dispel a lot of the negative connotations with Google LSA because some of them aren't true. And the same goes for AdWords. So a lot of times what I see in groups are someone who asks, hey guys, I was looking into Google local service ads or I was looking at AdWords, and then they're typically getting advice from someone who's in a market that's not their own, which is doing you a bit of a disservice because quite frankly, it's going to be very market specific on both sides, especially Google local service ads. So an example of this would be, let's say that you say, hey guys, what are your thoughts on Google local service ads? And someone says they're way too expensive. I pay $60 a call, $70 a call, whatever it may be. And then you never try it in your market. Well, I can tell you from experience, because we've tested LSA, obviously we run AdWords, that there's markets we've seen as low as $10 per call, $15 or $20 per call, and we've seen markets as high as $80 to $85 per call, which are obviously horrible markets for LSA. But I mention that because that person who's giving you their opinion in maybe a market where it's really expensive could be giving you that opinion, and you could be in one of the markets that's really cheap in comparison when it comes to Google LSA. So this goes without saying that it makes a lot of sense for you to understand your internal market and either test it out yourself in your market and get an idea what costs, or be talking to someone who's within your region or in your area when they're giving you that kind of advice. It's rare you're going to get that advice because, let's be honest, most of those people are going to be your competition. So unless you're friendly with your competition, you're probably going to have to test this out yourself. Or speak to someone like myself or another ads manager who's been in your area in the past that can give you that information. So when it comes to these two platforms, really what Google's trying to accomplish, in my opinion, with LSA is they want to give you a simpler platform to run ads. So people that aren't really good with managing campaigns and setting them up properly in AdWords can still run ads on the Google platform. Because at the end of the day, Google's end game is simple. It's to make money. They want you to advertise on the platform. Most of you watching are probably already familiar with AdWords and the fact that it can be pretty complicated. You know, if you don't have your keywords set properly, if you don't have your negative keywords set up, the way that you go about targeting is specific. You should be testing it out. It has to take time to learn and optimize. There's a lot of things that go into Google AdWords. So for most of you who have never ran an ads campaign before, that is going to be really challenging because you're not going to know what to look for, when you should make changes. You're not really going to have an idea of a baseline of numbers, understanding what's hurting or helping your campaigns, any of those things. So LSA usually is going to be a little bit of a better option for you unless it's extremely expensive. So if you run an LSA and the lowest max bid that you could set is $65 or $70, there's a good chance that you're probably not in the best market for Google local service ads. I dive a little bit deeper into each one individually, and I'll let you guys sort of dive into those videos yourselves if you'd like. But I want to break that down because there's somebody who's going to watch this and they're going to be kind of asking, Blake, well, what determines which platform is best for me? Well, cost is a huge determining factor for LSA. With AdWords, it's really going to come down to your knowledge level, the amount of time you're willing to put into understanding and learning that type of stuff, or you just hiring someone if you either A, don't have the time to learn it yourself, or B, maybe you're in a situation where you just rather somebody else deal with it, and it's not a headache that you want to have on your plate, which either one's understandable, whether you do it yourself or whether you hire somebody out. It just depends on your business model and where you stand within your business and your structure right now. LSA, you don't necessarily need to hire somebody out for it, but there are cases where like we've come in and we've checked people's accounts and they're missing something that really would be helping them out. A good example would be they didn't understand that they can dispute calls on local service ads, so they were missing out and paying for things they didn't necessarily need to. Or maybe they didn't understand exactly what services are best to have available on there. Perhaps they didn't know how to set a max bid and were paying more than they should. So those are kind of a couple examples of LSA that you might be missing on your own. Again, it's a much easier platform than AdWords. Night and day difference between the two on how simplified they are in getting calls and getting opportunities in. So, the biggest difference is going to be in costs. AdWords can be expensive too. Don't let that go without saying. But you're usually going to pay per click. You'll have CPC, and you'll get an understanding over time of what your cost per opportunity is. Whereas LSA is going to bill you directly per message or per call, and you're going to have a feel for kind of the average of what that is, whether it's between 30 to 35, 50 to 55, so on and so forth. My suggestion is to split test both if you have the funds available. If you're really tight on funds and you're kind of testing the waters with this, then you're going to probably be better off with LSA, only because unless you have the knowledge behind you to understand AdWords, you're going to lose a lot of that money trying to figure it out unless you're hiring somebody to do it. But I would try and speak to someone either locally or someone who is running an ads management company who can at least give you some value and say, hey, I've seen in this market these kinds of things. And usually if you're speaking to a company that is in your best interest, they're going to give you value without trying to sell you. So they're going to come in and they'll essentially kind of go over numbers that they've seen in that market and give you a little bit of information instead of just jumping on and trying to sell you on their services on the call. So just a call itself might be helpful with a company like that, because at least you're not going in blind and you're a little bit more educated on the two platforms in regards to what the expectation might be on cost. But these two platforms here, well, on Google, the Google platform, these two advertisement models, they're going to have different placements. So for AdWords, you're going to have a sponsored ad and you're going to write what's within that ad. So you'll be able to control a couple of different keywords that you can put in there, different things. You'll also control your landing page. You can set up an expanded text ad, or you could go call only. Won't dive too deep into that. Most are going to go expanded text and not call only. And then with local service ads, you'll have essentially another sponsored ad that either can fall in the map pack or can fall at the top, ends up being at the top, usually at this point, right around the top spot, or at least right there. And it'll have a list of companies and it'll basically have a local listing of service providers attaching to your Google business profile. So it'll show the amount of reviews you have from your profile. You'll have a Google verification badge, and they'll be able to call, message, or book online from that ad. And this will be another tidbit for you guys. A mistake that I see pretty often, because I don't think Google has really educated people enough on it properly, is that it'll ask you to create a review link for Google LSA. And I'll see some people actually create a brand new review link instead of attaching their Google business profile to the ad, which if you have a profile with 20, 50, 100, whatever reviews, it makes a lot more sense for you to attach that instead of creating a brand new review link. Google's supposed to automatically connect them. I can tell you from experience that only happens about 40, maybe even 30% of the time. So people miss out on that pretty often. But that's sort of just to give you guys an idea of the difference between the two. Inside of my community that we've built, I go into detail about AdWords and local service ads to continuously break down the difference between the two, as well as give you strategies and understandings of what to look out for, things that might make more sense in your market, so you have an understanding when you come in instead of coming into it blind. I'll have a link in the description there. It's a community that's basically built with course material that's a low end cost for you guys to come in and really have an understanding and a lot of resources in the junk removal space. Of course, you can always take my free content here as well. I'll probably put together a few more videos that are kind of revolving around this topic, both AdWords and local service ads, to help you guys out. That way, when you're gearing up for next year and the spring, you've got a place to go either in the community or in my channel to get as much information as you possibly can to help you guys scale into the next peak season. So I appreciate you guys for watching. As always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. I'll have new videos up here weekly to help you guys grow your junk removal business.